Welcome to the Clinical Cookout. Hey now, it's your Auntie Ashley.
What's up? It's your girl, Auntie Sug.
Hey, it's your girl, Auntie Kesh.
Hey y'all, it's Auntie Amber.
This podcast is for educational purposes only. We are qualified clinicians who will cover various topics on mental health and will sometimes provide community resources. We are not being paid by any organization for our content, and any information we provide is general and pertains to our own personal experiences. We do not provide psychotherapy, diagnoses, or treatment recommendations on air. Any concerns related to your individual mental health should be directed to your medical and mental health professionals. We are not responsible for others' decisions or the subsequent consequences.
Welcome to the Clinical Cookout. For this series, we will be talking about sensitive topics. Those topics include sexual abuse, sexualization of both boys and girls, as well as providing treatment and interventions. We would like to remind you that we are not your therapist. However, you can continue to view the content at your discretion.
I have a story to tell, and it's my story. We all have a story to tell, whether we whisper or yell.
I wanted to be anonymous, I won't lie. But I thought about that I needed to just show my face and, go for it. So I was about 15, and I had a cousin. We have that cousin we look up to. Well, this cousin, she was the one that I looked up to. She was about 3 years older than me. She may have just graduated, or she may have still been a senior. I can't remember at the time, but I think I was about 14, 15, something like that. And I remember that this guy, he was my cousin's boyfriend, my best cousin's boyfriend. But I'm going to say he was at least 30. And he would be to my house a lot because my dad would have these card games and people would come and gamble. And it was just like almost a nightly thing that happened. My room was like right by the area which they would gamble in. So, I had to walk through all that to get to my bedroom. But it also let any of them know which room was mine. The guy, we'll call him George, my cousin's boyfriend, George. He called one time and said that I want to have sex with you. But before that, my brother answered the phone. And so he asked to speak to me. So I got on the phone, and that's what he was saying. And so my brother was like, why is George calling you? But I just didn't get it. I absolutely didn't put two and two together. Did not do it. Long story short, we were all in bed one night, everybody in their respective rooms, my parents in their rooms, me and my brothers in their rooms, and I'm in my room. And I hear somebody trying to get into my window. My brothers heard me, I don't know what I must have screamed, and they came running. And so they chased the person. And so they said, that was George, and he was trying to get in your window, and, he's trying to do things to you, so, we've got to do something about it. I didn't get assaulted or anything, which I thank God for. The reason I'm telling you this story is how it all came down on me as a 15-year-old girl, where people were accusing me in my family. People that should have been like on my side, they took his side. I had done something to make it happen, or I was lying about it. The man came back to my house the very next day to play cards with my dad, and my dad just let him come on in. It was a whole thing about that felt like punishment for me doing something wrong, for me being, I don't know, fast may have been a term that they threw around, whore, slut, all directed at me from grown-ups, in my family. 15, y'all, 15. It amazes me how girls are treated in our community. And I know that there are young women who were not as lucky, I shouldn't say lucky because I don't believe in that, were not as fortunate as I was to have two brothers to come bursting through the window, bursting through the door to try to get this person who's climbing in your window. I know there are a lot of girls who have actually been raped, molested, assaulted, whatever you can think of negatively sexually by someone that was close to their family or a family member. And nobody did anything about it, or nobody talks about it.
I have a story to tell, and it's my story. We all have a story to tell, whether we whisper or yell.
Hey y'all, welcome back to the Clinical Cookout. Today we'll be talking about something sensitive, which is child sexual abuse, and we will also have a guest today to expand that conversation.
Hey, what's up, ladies?
Hi.
Welcome.
Well, hello to the viewers and listeners. My name is Vanna. I am the creator and host of a podcast myself called the Hood Talks Podcast. The founder of an organization called The Hood Connects, and we're based out of St. Louis, a Ferguson resident. I've been in Ferguson since 2011. I have two little ones, so I'm a mom of two beautiful girls, and I consider myself just out here in the community, trying to do the best I can with uplifting my community and supporting my community. And that's me in a nutshell.
Well, nice to meet you.
It's great to meet you.
I am so glad to be here. Thank you all for having me. This conversation is definitely a personal one, and I'm excited to really dive in it though, and open to this conversation. So thank you again.
You're welcome. Speaking of personal, we'd like to know, the aunties and the viewers would like to know, like, your personal reason for getting, starting your podcast and just jumping in this type of field. Because you could have jumped in anywhere, but you chose this. So we want to know why.
And I know this might sound cliche, but it actually chose me. I am not one to be in front of the camera. For the last 2 years, though, I've forced myself out here. But I think why I do it is it's become kind of sort of a healing space as well. Because I feel like a lot of times in the Black community, certain people who dealt with trauma, we feel like we can't come into the forefront and be uplifting or be supportive or be ourselves authentically. And sometimes also, the hood, for instance, right? The hood talks. I'm not the best at public speaking that I would say. And I come in a different approach, in a different way. And so I wanted to just have a space that people can relate to, who look like me, who talk like me, who act like me, who, just is like, and we can talk about things that's happening in our communities because we care. Sometimes people start to think like, are you from the hood, or you live a certain lifestyle, the rough and the raw lifestyle. You don't care about your community, or you don't care about your people. And I like to give that different perspective, that you can come from those gutter places, but also really care about your community and your people and want to see and do better. So that's kind of how I push myself out there in the space, and I'm learning as I go. So definitely not an expert. I say it shows me because the community is pushing me. My community is really pushing me to continue it going. So shout out to the community in St. Louis. Shout out St. Louis.
Hey, shout out to St. Louis.
Shout out.
I think what I enjoy about you the most is that you do have that real connection. And the reason why I think that that it's good is I was just having a conversation with somebody today, and she was talking about how people talk, and she wanted them to fix their grammar. And I was saying everybody doesn't want to talk like they're writing a dissertation all the time. Sometimes people just want to talk, and it's good. And so, I mean, even in the hood, we have to code switch. So you got to go from just, talking regular, right, to, this professional talk or whatever society said how we're supposed to speak. And it's exhausting. So for somebody to get on a podcast and come and hear you, or come and hear even any one of us speak, like, they could relate. So I appreciate you for that.
Yeah, that's it. You hit it right on the nail. It's like you want a comfortable space where, if you don't know, I be out there messing up words all the time, and I be like, it is what it is. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Because again, everybody don't talk that way. Everybody don't know that terminology. But also, I don't stop people who do. That's a learning experience for me to learn it. But just because I talk different, doesn't mean I don't care. So I agree with you. Like, we have to deliver things in different spaces in different ways. Everything ain't gonna work for everybody. So
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah, speaking of delivering things in different ways, this is part of a three-part series. And, we have some educational portions of this. We have, some of us just flowing and talking about different things in society and in the media. But this is more geared towards your personal story, someone who has experienced this directly. So we do want to go ahead and give you a chance to share your story, and then just talk a little bit about some of the things that followed as well.
well, to be very transparent, as I was earlier, this is like the second time in a public platform that I've even announced or even discussed being a victim of child abuse in a sexual form, and it's crazy. It's very weird to say that, and I think for me, it was people that were really close to me, and I was young. I can think back as early as 5, multiple people, not always the same perpetrator. So multiple people in different time frames of my childhood. The last time I was probably around the age of 8, 9. And I remember that was like the first time I spoke up for myself, and I was like, "No, not again. This is not happening." Um, and I yelled at the at the guy who was doing it, and it stopped from there. So I mean, it went to the extreme of um, touching, kissing, actual intercourse. Again, different people, three different people in 3 different forms. So not everyone perpetrated me, but others like simple as a touch and a kiss, which is, Lord, thinking about it is just disgusting to think about in my mind as I even talk about it. And so I never really again talked about this. I did I did tell my story when I got older to my family, some of my family, denied it, or not even denied it, kind of just like swept it under the rug. You know that in the Black community we get that what don't kill you makes you stronger type thing, or it's like what happens in my house stays in my house, or if I didn't see it, how do I believe you? Or and to me, it's like why would a child? I'm not even. I wasn't a child when I said anything, but why would someone lie about something like this? Why? Why would somebody do that? But again, so I think for me, that put a real hindrance on my relationship with family. And I'm not being specific because as a victim, though, this is sometimes one of my biggest things is you don't want your family to feel some type of way, or you don't want people close to you. And it's irritating that I feel like I have to save face for them. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of the victims who deal with this type of abuse has that barrier that they carry a lot of the times. It's like, oh, if I tell anybody not only how I feel, but how does my family feel? How would they feel? So, and I hate that I carry that, and I'm I'm in the healing process. I tell people that all the time. I am freshly in my healing process of all of the traumas that I've been through.
I know that I can't even imagine how difficult that is as a child to go through something like that. And I'm about to cry right now, and I'm not even the person that went through it. Um, but one of my questions, I guess, is at what point, like, if you can recall, did you know the first time that it wasn't okay? Or, was that when you were 8 to 9 and you realized that's when you spoke up and said no? Was that the first time you realized this is not right?
Yeah, I think at the beginning, I didn't know. Honestly, I didn't know what was really happening. Um, I mean, what child really do know at that age that what's happening to you? I don't even think children know about it. And to me, I didn't have a mind of thought that somebody is sexually attracted to me or they're doing this because no. At 9, yes. At 9, it was like okay. this is not right. I'm tired of this. I don't want to do this anymore. I mean, because I've went through again several different times, and the last victim who I said no to, his wasn't at the extreme yet, but I felt it coming because he was touching, he was kissing, and so I felt it coming. So at 9, I was like, okay, I'm not going to let this happen to me, and that's when I believe that protective like fight. And I'm clearing up now because when you process it, you start to understand why you show up the way you show up.
Yeah.
And I've been so protective of me since that 9-year-old because she was like, she's tired of being hurt. And so I feel like I've carried that for since now until like really just now again getting to process what happened to me. I know, I'm sorry, but it's a process.
No, you are just fine. And if you need a break, just let us know.
Take a breath. Take a breath. You don't have to listen. Don't even speed your way through your story. It's your story to tell. I always tell clients I work with, people in general, you get to tell your story how you want to tell it. Take the time you need to tell it. And what I just heard you say was, you have been protecting that 9-year-old since then. Even as an adult, you are protecting that 9-year-old child that still resides in you. And in therapy, we call it IFS work. It's parts work. So that inner child, that's who you go to. That's who you go to when you're scared. Even now, probably.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's the things when you're to talk about flight and fight. Baby, that's my tool. I'm either gonna run away from it and not address it, or I'm gonna come with hands full. Let's go, and I'm gonna fight till I feel like I've accomplished what I need to accomplish. And it is. It's that 9-year-old who's saying, protect you. Nobody else did. Protect you. You have to protect you.
Do you feel like you're constantly fighting, like even now? Because I know you said like it sounds like even now you still feel like you have to protect that 9-year-old, and it sounds like you have. I mean, I remember you said you had 2 kids, and so does it like trickle down to them for you?
Again, saying being active in therapy because I have been very much aware of I have this trauma, and I'm trying to make sure that it don't show up in my parenting. But right now, I will be lying to you if I said it don't. And my babies are 4 and 2. When I first had Devea, who's 4 now, I didn't want anybody to keep her because I, as the mother, had to protect her. I wasn't, it wasn't even about anybody else. It's just that 9-year-old in my mind, like, oh, now I have another baby who looks like you. Even when they look like you, I be like, she looked like me, so I see that little girl in her, and I be like, oh my god, oh, that's so hard to admit, but I swear I be looking at her like that's me.
Like you personified.
Yeah, so even realize that even if I'm trying to protect her to an extent where it's depleting me, and that's not good as her mother. And I'm holding on to her too tight that one day she might run loose, and that ain't good either. So really trying to find the balance of, okay, Savannah, talk to her. Like I've been having conversations, like even my 2-year-old, I be like, this is your vagina. Don't no one touch it. Tell mommy if someone touches it. It's your bottom, your butt. You're going to say them terms. No, don't let nobody touch it. So I have those conversations with them at an early age, and that helps me feel better to release that they know their body parts.
And I love that because you have people that will sit up here and say pee and poo nanny and all these other shaboinka, whatever. That is not the word.
Shaboinka.
That ain't what it is. And
no.
I've always told my kids the real words. I actually had a teacher tell my toddler one time, because he says penis, that he can't say that word in the classroom. It's a bathroom word. He can't say that. He has to say. She gave him some other word to say. And I told him no. Like you can say it's exactly.
So yeah, and you know what? I second what Amber says, because even in my house, like I teach the kids the big words, like they know the real words. I'm an adult and I still say shaboinker, but I know the real words, right? Shaboyka's my word.
It don't matter. That Shaboyka is a mess. Like,
Shaboyka is amazing.
Shaboyka and pie.
I was thinking about the
Doesn't say
song.
vagina. She
Shabuya.
says pie.
Shabuya.
Shabuya, Robocall.
Right. Like, what? Okay, that's what we all.
That's what we call it.
Let me find out.
Anyways,
That's another word for it.
baby, y'all need professional help. All of y'all. Anyway, I heard you talk a lot about therapy. So I'm always the one telling people, go get you some therapy. Go get you some therapy. And just the fact that you actually went and got you some therapy, like I don't think that people realize how helpful it is, especially with like everything that you've been through. Can you talk a little bit about like what made you go to therapy or and I mean I know that it's circumstances, but like how did you get to the point where you say, you know what, I need therapy? And then how is it working for you?
Well, I've always had a mindset to try therapy. I was never consistent with it in my earlier years. In my teen, like my early 20s and stuff like that, I wasn't really consistent, but I always had like I tried a counselor. But I dealt with also along with, the trauma, I dealt with anxiety and depression to a point of suicide. Like I almost attempted suicide myself. So for me it was I can't do this by myself. Point blank period. Clearly, I'm not doing it good by myself. Friends and family, I used to get mad because even if I told you what's going on, and I tell people this all the time, get a therapist because they're not gonna tell your business, okay? And if they do, they're going to jail. Okay.
You guys just get a fine and not go to jail, but I mean I ain't gonna tell it.
Lose our license.
So I'm like, family members just gotta tell your business. Your friends, you might have some solid friends, but they going through life too, right? So how really helpful can they be to you in your situation? And then for me, I didn't want to put the burden of what I'm dealing with a lot of times because I feel like I'm the healer. Clearly, because of my platform that I do, the Hood Talks podcast, we're all about again uplifting community voices and just providing that space for people to talk about their experiences, kind of like what you all are doing here today for me. And so that's kind of what I do. So I feel like for therapy, I felt like it had to be that part because this is an expert. They go through training. They can give me some advice, and I can let it out and be vulnerable. And sometimes a stranger, to me, is better than somebody that knows you like real personal. So that's why I felt like therapy was one of my best spaces to go. I didn't get consistent until after postpartum depression, after the VEA. And when I said like I was drowning and I'm thinking like I'm the only one that's supposed to care for this baby and I want to protect the baby. And I was like, okay, Shavana, you have to address this because this is not healthy. So that was where I was like, okay, I got to do some real soul searching, some real just different. I have to do something different.
So just a follow-up question from Auntie Sug's question would be, what coping skills or techniques did you learn or were helpful for you? You talked a little bit about parenting and how you learned to manage that, but what were some other skills or techniques that you learned that were helpful?
Processing. I feel like that is one of my biggest I go to right now, which is for me is like identifying your trigger and going through the process of eliminating the feelings that you had around it and identify why. So that's kind of how my processing goes. For me, it's like, say I get mad about, I don't know, it could be something that I'm mad at my children's father because we have an argument. Instead of like taking all the anger in, I'll go somewhere in a space where it's quiet and I'll process what happened. How am I feeling and why am I feeling that way? Is it because of true instinct or is it because of trauma that you had previously? So a lot of times I'm learning to do that. Taking breaths and walking away, saying no. That's the best coping skill. Sometimes you just gotta say no. I ain't got it today. Shutting stuff off. I just put a post out today on Facebook saying like I'm making an executive decision to get off of work and not gonna work for a week. So finding new spaces where I can control and put myself into a space that I can get away from the world, get away from what's maybe making me feel bad or making me feel any type of triggers or anything like that, and coming back to it if I have to come back to it and address it versus, addressing it right then and there. And I think the first step is also being able to admit that you
Yeah.
are, you're broken, you've been traumatized, and that it's okay to know that you're, working on healing, and that healing ain't gonna happen overnight. So I think those are one of the things for me too. Is like I'm not going to master this overnight. The stuff didn't happen to me, overnight. So I just definitely think that's a big step as well, and a coping skill for me too.
So how long you been in therapy? Just sorry, Shug. Cause that's a whole lot that you learn. You been in it for a while?
Shout out to my therapist. So I've been seeing her, yeah, about almost 4 years.
Okay.
Yep,
Oh, yeah.
and consistently this same therapist. Yep.
Shout
And
out
trying
to long-term therapists because a lot of therapists do not want to work with clients long-term, and I don't understand it because I love long-term work.
she be trying to get rid of me sometimes though, but she be like, "You're doing so good." I'm like, wait a minute, we gotta go back and we gotta address this.
Like, I just need a monthly maintenance check-in at least.
You
Give me
hear me?
something.
Just the
Yeah,
maintenance.
that's what I was gonna say. Maybe not get rid of you, but sometimes people, if you don't have to be in therapy for 10 plus years or 5 plus years, then it's okay to say, you know what, you're doing well. You have coping skills. I have to have you be able to try to practice it on your own so that I'm not a crutch. So maybe not get rid of you, but maybe try to make you kind of, launch. And then
Yeah.
as you need her coming back, just kind of like if a child is like out of the house, it's like, okay, you're out, but if you need me, I'm here. So I've taught you, and now let's go from there.
And I feel that. I do feel that. I think for me, I keep entering different journeys of my life that like I said, it's not over. And I really this last 2 years, I've been put into the public a little bit more than what I'm used to. So
Mhm.
as much as she ready to push me off, I be feeling like I still need you because I'm walking through a new stage of my life that again, I still ain't healed off everything. When I talk about uplifting people to be able to use their voices, in the back of my mind, I'm still pushing myself to do that myself, like be here on this platform and share my story. So I think that's why I'm like, sis, we could check in once a month or every 2 weeks. I still, I'm still healing. And like I said, I think when I met her, we focused on parenting. And we took some years to get through my parenting style. And now we're focusing on taking it back to again the trauma that I've experienced in specifically around, the sexual abuse.
And trauma processing can take a while. That's not a 6-8 session situation. That is
Mhm.
a
And think about multiple traumas.
yeah, multiple
Yep.
traumas in your life. You could be there 2, 3, 4, 5 years processing trauma that happened for years throughout your childhood and adolescence.
Come on now. So, woo, yeah,
You're
it
doing
looks.
good though, girl. You're doing the work. I actually have a question going back to something you said before that kind of ties in. Now, when we are processing trauma, um, especially when it comes to childhood sexual abuse, you said earlier, I'm not still in that place where I can name names publicly because that's still my family. And it brings a question of how often are children even taught by the adults in their family, you know what, we keep it in the family. Like you said, what happens behind our closed door stays there. And how often that can really confuse children. Like, I'm supposed to tell because this is not feeling right, not right, but this is a family member. So like, I don't want to destroy our family.
Mhm.
I think it, and we the statistic says that a lot of times the perpetrators are the ones that's close in family members and homes, right? And I think that's why the dynamic of it is because we have that what happens here stays here, and don't tell nobody what's going on in my house, and all those secrets. I say, and especially in our community, right? Like man, it's we have some family secrets, and I'm not saying everybody, but I feel like most of the trauma that come into the Black community has come from that situation is and it's real. So I think it does mess up a child, because like you said, maybe I should tell, but if I do, this is my brother, or this is my uncle, this is my granddaddy, this is my grandma, this is my auntie. Let's not forget about boys, right? So I think
I think what happens too is it put the responsibility on you as a child. Because adults sometimes, and I mean, it's hurtful for them too, but when it's you, it's still like, okay, I know it hurts you to talk about it, but it hurt me to happen to me. So I think that it hurts you more than anybody, because it's like, now I got to keep their secret. I got to keep this secret that happened to me. And then now I'm not allowed to say anything because I'm going to hurt one of y'all over a situation that happened to me, and it's unfair.
Yeah, then the judgment, right? The judgment of outsiders, then at your family members saying, oh, well, they a bad family, or they this or they that, and you like, it's kind of like what you just said. It's hurtful. They don't even want to talk about it. It's hurtful. They don't even want to say it or address it, for them. But like you said, what do we think about for the victim? But I do agree that, and then even the judgment for victims, if we talk about it, we get pushed back too, right? Like, why bring it up now, when it happened so long ago? Like, why are you just talking about it? And I feel like at the end of the day, everybody gone, again, the processing. Some people forget that it even happens to them in that time, and then it comes back. So that's probably why. Or like you said, they didn't know how to say it at the beginning, and so now they're getting the courage to say it. So I think the victim shaming as well is one of the biggest issues that brings a burden on victims.
Victim shaming and victim blaming.
Yeah.
Literally, you have people out here blaming the kids. Like,
Yes.
what did you do? What did you do to make them think that that was okay? What did you do? Or like we've talked about on here before, and we got something on right now with girls being called fast. Well, you were a fast little girl. You were a fast little girl. So I can see how that could have happened to you. It's like, so you just put it all on me.
Or even the way we talk about our children. Like, I have to catch myself too, because I was a thicker girl. I always had curves. So, I used to kind of try to hide it when I was in my teenager years. I used to wear skirts and tell people it was my religion. Because if I wore jeans, it showed my curves, and I felt people was looking at me, So I used to just wear dresses and skirts.
Isn't it crazy how some people wanted attention? Like,
that was me.
Wanted attention. Like, I'm trying to show all this off, and you like, no, give me that shirt. You know what I mean? It's either way it goes, it's always on the person.
Well, let me add.
I just want to say I was a victim, right? This happens, over the time it was like my body is sexualized.
Yep.
So I used to, like, my mama would be out in the public, and older men would approach and say stuff like, "Oh, she gonna hurt hearts out here," or "She's so beautiful," and I should be like, "I don't want this attention." Like, remember, like, beyond even showing up, I feel like in my 20s, after I did get to that teenage years where you girly and now you want to wear that stuff, I think I only brought or presented sexualizing myself than I did anything else, because again, that's what I felt like men wanted. I didn't think they wanted anything beyond my body. So that's I feel like all I kind of had to offer, because that's what was taken. So I just think all of those different things, and what I have kind of processed since therapy is like how I'm showing up from that trauma, how I showed up.
I just wanted to add, there is some research behind the over sexualization of Black women's bodies. And it's been like that since slavery days, about how we have been so sexualized for just the sexual appetite of the slave master. And then as we've gone through the decades of, now we're sexualizing rap music, and how the only thing that Black women have to offer is our bodies. So this is definitely something that is constantly conditioned in our mindset. That's all we have to have. When actual reality, we got a lot to offer to people. And so I think that was so important that you brought that up about the sexualization of bodies.
Yep. And you know what, Kesh, what's interesting about that research is that Black women have been sexualized for centuries. And so then what it also does is it doesn't allow us to even be sexy. Now it's like now it's the extreme opposite. Like I can't be sexy because that's all they did to us. It's like we are not allowed to fully embody every aspect of our womanhood, which part of it is being sexy. I get to be sexy, and you don't
Right.
have to be over sexualized to do that.
Right.
Now that's
Yeah.
real. And as raising little girls, I try to be conscious about that because I'll be like, oh wait, them pants too tight, girl. Her pull that shirt down, or
Mhm.
or right, cross your legs. Like even I don't think I even like buy potentially like dresses and skirts and let my girls wear that type of stuff. 'Cause, again, I'm nervous about it. So I agree.
Yeah, you're right. And you're right to be nervous about it. And it's sad that we have to say that because everybody says, oh, put the responsibility on the perpetrator. And you can put the responsibility on a perpetrator, but at the same time, who do you control? So if you can't control other people, then you are forced to control yourself, or you know what I mean? Like you're supposed to take things into your own hands. So even with my girls are really, really conservative. Um, Even growing up, I didn't feel like I had to flaunt it all out because I'm trying to hide it and pull it back and tuck it back. I hated having big boobs. But even like growing up, you would hear, oh, you have a flat butt, or you don't, or when I have no breasts, you don't have this or you don't have that. And so it lets you know that people are always looking at what you have to offer. And so teaching girls, and a lot of girls are not taught how to be tasteful when when you wear things. What do you wear what do you wear in each room that you go in? Who's going to be looking at you? Do you want this kind of attention? Ryan Davis was talking today about I love Ryan Davis. First of all, he's hilarious. But he was talking about a picture of Iggy Azalea. And he was saying how you're naked on covers, you know what I mean? And then like, you flaunting your assets, and then you're confused about when somebody's like, I wonder what you look like naked. And so it's not to shame or to blame, but it also like speaks to kind of what you're saying is how you teach your girls how to not be overly sexual, but you still have to teach them how to live in this world as a girl who somebody is going to see as a victim.
And I understand that, but I've never like even when we were in high school, Auntie Sug, you can remember most high school dress codes only seem to point to what girls wear. It's like you dress appropriately so that these boys can control themselves. So they are still putting it on us to help someone else control themselves. And that's what I don't like because it
Yeah.
doesn't matter if you're in the appropriate setting. I've seen people say something about young girls on beaches in swimsuits. I'm on a beach in a swimsuit. What else am I supposed to have on? Like, so it doesn't the place doesn't even matter. Like I have a 14-year-old daughter. She curvy. She more curvy than her mama was at 14. She got a nice shape on her. And people don't even realize certain things they say make her believe that it's sexual. Like even saying to her, "Ooh, your daddy gonna have to go get his shotgun." For
Yeah.
what? Like, I'm just out here trying to look cute.
Or it's a backwards compliment. Some people don't know what to say.
They don't.
I guess my question would be to you, Vanna, is with your little girls and teaching them certain things or having that anxiety, be brought forth while, raising two girls is how do you address, let's just say, if there was a little boy who said something or may have made a remark about one of your children, how do you handle that with the other parent? That would be my question. Because I know you have them, like I know your girls,
Yeah.
you're focused on, making sure protecting them, but also how do you change the overall I guess thought process of basically raising better boys? How do you address that?
And I think that's exactly what we need to do is keep having conversations around that part. Because I'm with you, Auntie Ashley. I got yeah, okay, Auntie Ashley. I'm with you. I think we have to stop making our girls feel like it's their fault because of how their body is. Now, some people out here getting BBLs and all that. Shout out to y'all. But some of us are naturally this way. And thank
Shout out
God
to
I didn't
y'all.
have to pay for these jugs, okay, on this bottom. But again, that doesn't mean just because I have them that you have
You
to,
get to touch them.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
different, or that you have to sit here and look and glamorize it. So I do think we have to tell boys that, have the conversations, and I would tell a mom, talk to your son just like I'm talking to my daughter. I'm not gonna tell my daughter to go around touching his penis. Now I know we got some fast. Nah, I would say we have some girls that are very overly sexual too. So we can't just put it on boys. I mean, some of these girls out here, they're ready, and so we have to just have the conversations, I think, and be open. Because I think the generation, like my parent generation, I would say maybe those parents that was born in the 60s and 70s, they didn't really want to talk about it.
Right.
I don't remember nobody telling me about
Right.
sex, how to be prepared, or any of those conversations really. And so I think the generation now, we just really got to talk about it. Got to have these
Right.
conversations with our children.
Right.
Well,
And I
one
think there's been a past normalization of you're just going to take it because of the power dynamics that has happened over time. Like men are the people who make the decisions, and whatever they choose to do, you got to go along with it, even if it was abuse. So you are right. We don't talk about that because it was a condition that we had to follow then. Now, what does this look like changing that conversation up? I appreciate that.
And it's,
I appreciate that.
and it's
I even appreciate. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead, sure. Go ahead.
I even appreciate you using the word fast. I'm not gonna eliminate it because nobody else is gonna eliminate it. You're gonna have your old heads. Like we can't change the world. I'm like, you better not say fast. When I talk to my aunt, they're gonna say, I don't care what you say. That girl is fast. So, and we might say fresh tail. Some girls, like you said, are ready. And those might be who they call fast. But I just encourage people to think why. There's always a why. So
And I agree. That's always a why. But even having the conversations with girls about pleasing your own body, I am going to be very blunt to my babies about, baby, if you feel something down there, the best thing you can do, get your fingers, don't get your stuff off or whatever, or here, let's experience. Maybe you need, if that's going to stop you from going and giving yourself to somebody that ain't even, wanting it for real, or, wanting it, but not really wanting you. Like, how can we really make sure that and then, let's be honest, we got a lot of women who ain't even pleased themselves, who don't even know what they like. So, and they just going into the bedroom. And I was one of those. You just get on top and do what you want to do. Because again, I'm a victim thinking that this is what I'm supposed to give you. And I'm like, what was this? I didn't even like this. I didn't even enjoy this. And now I'm just doing it because I think this is what I'm supposed to do. So I just think we have to really, again, empower women on their own body sexually as well, and have those conversations with our young girls.
And see, and I'm so glad you went there, because see that this now we in my lane of how certain external factors have really destroyed the sexuality of girls and women. Literally destroyed it. Not just trauma, not even just talking about trauma. You can have a girl who did not experience any trauma, but she got told things through her older grandparents or parents. She got told things through the church. Even how we frame, don't lose your virginity. So I lose it, he takes it. So this is something I have to give away. This is something that can be taken. Even our words around it. And this is why when Auntie Sug said, we're not going to stop everybody from using the term fast. No, we're not. But that doesn't mean don't try, because in order to make change in any way, you still have to try. You have to be the change you want to see. So I'm not going to use it. If someone uses it, I'm going to tell them why I don't like it. But I mean, I can't control what other people do. But
we educate.
We educate. We can't keep allowing it to be perpetuated. And listen, I'm the same way with these little girls. When you hear grown women, I've literally heard grown women, and there's been research done about how, I think the last time I looked, it was like 43% of women have never experienced an orgasm. I'm like, excuse me, what? I don't understand. And it's either trauma-based or because they just don't even understand what it is they like, and they're afraid to say it, because boys are socialized and raised to be sexual and have sexual prowess. Girls are raised to be demure. Don't do that. That's taboo. You don't do that. And I'm like, no, you are. But then they get older and men want a woman with some experience. Well, how am I supposed to have it when they told me to be ashamed of it?
Exactly. That part is hard for me, Ash. And the only reason why it's hard for me is because I don't think it's the generalization. That's it. All boys were not raised like that.
Oh no, all boys weren't. Let me clarify. All boys weren't raised like that either. And like you said, get to the why. When you have children, like you were saying earlier, Vanna, when you have those young girls who are ready, they seem ready. Why? Why are they so ready? What have they seen and been exposed to that made them so ready at 12 and 13 and 14? So we have to ask ourselves that, but we also can't ignore biology. Biologically, some hormones are racing through at
Yeah,
13, 14,
let's
15,
keep it
and
real.
you are feeling things. You might
Yeah.
be horny and don't know what that is. And nobody's talking to you and telling you about it.
Yeah.
And that's my thing. It's just like having the conversations. You know, um, some people be like, well, I don't want my kids to know. Baby, if they don't find out by you, somebody in the streets gonna tell them, and then they ain't gonna be there to protect you. You ain't gonna be able to protect them. So I'm gonna need. I'm gonna have to, even if I might not like it, I'm speaking this into existence now because I'm preparing myself. Even if I don't like the conversation, I still want to be open to have that conversation because I didn't have a safe place. And one of the things I'm working really hard on is making sure that I try to be a safe space for my child. I'm not saying I'm a perfect parent. I never want people to think I'm not saying I'm perfect in any way or any shape or form. It's the striving and trying. It's the being open and just being vulnerable. And I tell my babies now, like, Mama is trying her best. I apologize to my babies. Even when I might go off, I be like, I'm sorry, Mama this right now, Mama this right now. And that's where I'm starting. And I just want to again be that for them as well when they get to these spaces where they curious. I want them to come to me. I didn't have so
Good thing. I like the fact that you're modeling that behavior for them because then they get to take what you've done, like, okay, I apologize, I blew up, mommy feels this way, or hey, if you're feeling this, or hey, if somebody has done something inappropriate, I am a safe space for you. And they'll remember that as they keep going. So I just appreciate you changing the trajectory of your little girl's life to show that they have safe people to go to and they can model those same safe and healthy behaviors.
and
Good
I
for
mean,
you.
even if it's not me,
Right.
I'm also like, how can we get you access to therapy?
Hey.
Who is the outside source? I'm talking about that as well.
Yeah.
So I think it just, again, it may not be me, and I'm open to it being someone that maybe it is a therapist. And now they're gonna know it's okay to go to therapy because guess what?
Mommy's doing it.
Yeah.
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 And you know what, Vanna? That brings up another point. Like you said, if I'm not comfortable talking to them, let a therapist. They can talk to a therapist. If you are not comfortable talking to your children about sex, they literally offer courses and classes at Planned Parenthood for teenagers, and sometimes it's free or grant funded. Send them there. If you are so uncomfortable that you can't talk the real with them, send them where they can hear it. Send them
Yeah.
to somebody that can teach them.
And that is great advice. So as we wrap it up, we're going to talk about foil. Okay, so yeah, speaking of things that people can do, we are going to go ahead and transition into our foil. So Vana, before we let you go, we just wanted to check in and see what would be your final thoughts, something that someone could take away from this.
I always say this, and I speak this to myself as I say it, is in your healing journey, give yourself grace. In your journey, period, in life journey, because baby, life is not easy. Okay, but give yourself grace. And find yourself. To know yourself and know what you want is life changing. If you feel like you need a change in your life, go sit down with yourself and be with yourself and really figure out yourself and what you want. But give yourself grace in that process.
So one of the biggest things that I do think that people should work on is just education. We had Auntie Kesh talk about calling girls fast, and I did mention that you're not going to be able to change all the minds, and you won't be able to change all the minds, and you won't be able to wipe every word out of somebody's vocabulary because that's not your job, but it is your job to educate. So when you have that in your head, and it could be a trigger word for you, because I know it's often a trigger word for me, and always wonder about the why. So even before you make that judgment, think about the why. Vanna just talked about all the things that she's been through, and you don't get all of those just by looking at somebody. So her acting on sexual trauma personified might have made her look fast, but at the same time, when you look deeper under the surface, there's always a why.
Come on, Shug. Come on with that.
I wanna piggyback off of that, kind of feeding off of that. That yes, I mean we can't change vocabulary. We can't change who says fast or whatnot, but we can change also how we deliver certain messages to our children. So hearing the word fast, yeah, you might be saying it to uncle over here, like, oh, she fast, but keep that there. You don't need to go and say that to the child. You don't need to tell her how much she's over sexualized and how fast she is all the time, or he, because that also has an impact on how they view themselves and how they
Yeah.
interact with other people. So just keeping in mind, how you deliver certain information to children and how they receive it as well.
So for me, I think this conversation is one that needs to continue to be had first and foremost. We can't just stop talking about it because clearly people still do need to be educated and we do still need to have the conversation. But the conversation often focuses around victims and predators. I want to focus and want people to look at enablers. Those are the people in life who enable this to continue happening by not getting educated, by not trying to understand more. So I want everyone, if you've never been a victim and you've never been a predator, you still play a part. So I want you to understand to not enable these things. You can't justify or continue to try to justify behavior that you don't even understand. So learning more, reading more. Listen, don't always trust Google either. That's a point to take. Google is not always right. You have to talk to people who actually know this stuff and know what they're talking about. And I just want people to, challenge themselves. It can be hard challenging yourself to be different or to think different than you've always thought. But the only way to break patterns is to challenge yourself.
And I'm going to piggyback off of the aunties and specifically Ashley's question or Ashley stating to challenge yourself. So one of the questions I thought of when we talk about child abuse or child sexual abuse is, what would you have told your younger self if you were in that situation? How would you want someone to respond to you if you were to go through something like that? So it's important for us to understand as adults that we have to be the change we want to see. And if we want our children to have safe spaces or ourselves to have safe spaces, we have to model that type of behavior. So if you can model to your children that you can set that boundary, even with other adults, if you're not allowing certain things to be happening around your child or certain things to be said around your child, or you want to be the primary person to teach your child about sex, their body parts, then say that. Like, hey, I think that's a conversation for me and my child to have. I will have this conversation when I get home. And then speak to that adult as in like, please do not say those inappropriate things to my daughter or my son, and leave it like that. So that way your children know that this is not supposed to be happening. And if so, my mom and my dad can protect me. So I would challenge everybody to ask those questions, and I will also model those behaviors as much as you can so your children know that they're in a safe space.
Like
Yes.
it, piece like it. That let your child have autonomy too. If they tell you they don't want to hug somebody, don't make them hug that person. If they say no, I don't want to hug, I don't want to do this, I'd rather not do that. That is okay. That is not disrespectful. It's okay if they don't want to hug grandma or
Put
grandpa.
your arms around Uncle Remus.
Put your arms
And,
around. Oh no, I don't want to hug him. I don't
and
want
just so you know, parents appreciate that. Parents appreciate you asking their children. I've done it before, and a parent was really surprised. They were like, oh, they was like, people never ask that question, but I appreciate you asking my child if they want to be hugged or how would they like to say goodbye or hi. You can ask parents if for that. Don't just go up and touch somebody's skin. You can
Yeah.
ask.
yes.
Yeah.
Ask.
Well, we really hope that y'all enjoyed this episode of our sexual abuse series. Please tune in to see the other parts later where we talk about treatment, we talk about sexualizing boys and girls, we provide statistics. It's really informational. So we hope that y'all enjoy the rest of the series.
So thanks for watching. We know that this episode may have had some triggering points. We understand that people go through things, and some of the people may have gone through some of the things that we discussed in this episode. So we just want to encourage everybody, if you see something, say something. And that's very powerful because children can't advocate for themselves, so somebody has to advocate for them. Thank you for watching. And at the end of this, once again, we're going to put out our resources.